your mind. We played hide and seek for hours, raised our shadows among the pines.
Hey everyone, we're starting off this video with Super Bowl Sunday, and I'm just showing some quick food that we had on Super Bowl Sunday, and then we're moving on to Monday, which was Valentine's Day. And here I am just trimming up and butterflying some chicken breasts and cutting them in half so that they are thinner, and I'm gonna make a delicious chicken dinner for Valentine's Day. I'm just cutting 3 of these large chicken breasts down the center, and I'm trying to be very careful because my knife is not very sharp, so ideally you would want to use a sharp knife, but since my knife is kind of dull, I'm being very careful to cut away from me and make sure that my knife does not slip and cut me. And then once I have all of my chicken breasts laid out on my cutting mat, I am just sprinkling on some of this beer can seasoning. I picked this seasoning up at Save-A-Lot, and it was $1.99. Now I'm always really careful these days and read the ingredients and check for the salt content. In my cast iron skillet, which is warmed up and ready to go, I am just using my kitchen shears, which are also not very sharp, so it should be easier than this, but it looks like I need to do a little work on my kitchen utensils. But all I'm doing is taking my shears and cutting this bacon into bite-sized pieces and putting it in the cast iron skillet to fry up, and then I'm just going to work on getting that bacon cooked, and when it's done I'm going to set it aside to use later. These tongs were bent and weren't quite lining up, so it was making it very difficult to grab anything. So I guess today I'm just showing you how to make a delicious dinner using bad kitchen utensils. While the bacon was cooking, I just mixed up this funfetti cake mix, and I am just going to pour it into 2 of these little 8x8 disposable pans. I had picked these up around Christmas time, and I have like maybe 4 of them, 8 pans all together, so they kind of have come in handy. And since the lids are red, it kind of went with the whole Valentine. I always say I show affection through food, so if I cook for you, it means I love you. My husband is a gifter, so I made him cake and he bought me roses. It's a win-win for both of us.
No mistake ever kept me late. We spent summers catching fireflies and winters on our skates. One big smile across my face. We used to dance our way to church on Sundays. Mama set the pace. Daydreamer, kitten and maid. Take me back, all the way back.
In that same cast iron skillet that I cooked the bacon in, I'm going to cook the chicken breasts in the bacon drippings. I'm putting the chicken breast into the pan with the seasoned side down. And then once I get all 3 of these chicken breasts into the skillet, I'm going to season the top side of those pieces of chicken with that beer can seasoning. And once these 3 pieces of chicken are cooked all the way through, I will remove them and put the other remaining 3 pieces in and cook them up as well. And I'll use the same method for all of the chicken and then put it all aside once it's all done. After I remove the cooked chicken from the pan, I'm going to use the same skillet to make the sauce, and then I will return the chicken into that sauce and let it cook. And then when it's all done, I'm going to top it with that crispy bacon that I cooked earlier.
Have me running around, dressed in a gown, barefoot.
To go with this chicken, I'm making some fried zucchini strips. I just cut up my zucchini into thin strips and I'm going to pop it into some breadcrumbs. You can do an egg mixture and then dip it in if you want a thicker coating, but I just wanted a really light breading on my zucchini just to give it a little bit of a taste or a little bit of a crunchiness. I'm using the Italian seasoned breadcrumbs just for that little bit of extra flavor, and then all I'm doing is putting it into some hot oil, and then I'm just going to put a very small amount of salt just to enhance that flavor. I'm just going to cook both sides of the zucchini until they're nice and golden brown. Maybe because we're in the long days of winter, I am just having warm thoughts of summer because this meal just reminded me of a nice summer meal. I live in a state that has a long, cold winter season, and I guess in the middle of February, all we can do is dream of warmer temperatures. If you're new here, I'm Rachel, and I'm from Southern Michigan, you know, the state that's shaped like a mitten and surrounded by the Great Lakes on all sides. I share real life footage of what my family has for dinner each week, whether it's good or bad. Because they're not all winners and they're not all homemade. But dinner happens every night. Once all the chicken is cooked and removed from the skillet, I'm just going back through and straining out some of these burnt pieces that were in the pan. I don't want to leave too many of that in there because it's already going to be a dark sauce from cooking in bacon grease. But now I have some of the juices from that cooked chicken in this pan as well as the bacon grease, and so I'm going back in and I'm sprinkling in a couple tablespoons of flour. I did not measure this part, but I will link the video or the recipe for this chicken in the description box so that you can get the actual recipe. So the next step is that I'm adding some chicken broth after I get that flour cooked for a few minutes, just so it doesn't taste like flour. And I'm going to use this metal utensil. Like I said earlier, I do not have the right utensils for this day, but it's all going to work in the end. And this sauce cooks up super fast, so you got to be ready and you got to stir it as you're adding in your chicken broth and get all that flour stirred around and mixed in so that your sauce doesn't have lumps. And then once you have that all cooked, prepared, you're going to add those chicken pieces back in. And now that it's all cooked and has shrunk down a little, I'm able to get all 6 pieces of chicken back into the skillet just by moving them around and rearranging a little bit. But you just want to get them tucked in there into all that sauce. And then let it cook for a little while longer, just so that you can get all those flavors mingling and getting to know each other real good. Overall, this was a really easy recipe to make. If you had smaller pieces of chicken, it would be easy to make this in no time. But I did have to cook my chicken in batches and get it all back in there to cook together. Otherwise, I could have made this probably in less than 30 minutes. After the chicken had simmered in the sauce for a little while, I then just put that crumbled bacon on top of each piece, and it was ready to eat. And surprisingly, this chicken was not very heavy tasting. I thought with the sauce being so dark in color that it would feel very heavy, but it was actually quite light. And we just made some mac and cheese to go with our chicken and zucchini, and that was our dinner on Valentine's Day. And how I say I love you with chicken and cake. And Tuesdays are either hit or miss at our house. If I don't put something in the crock pot, then it ends up being a whatever day. And that's what happened this Tuesday. So we are going to move on to Wednesday. And we had a very, very, very hectic work week this week. And so dinner on Wednesday was just kind of a throw together, very last minute, unplanned dinner of, I'm not even sure what you call this. Some people, I guess, would call it SOS or hamburger gravy. My kids called it slop when they were growing up, and it was affectionately known as slop to them because it was just kind of a meal that we didn't really know what to call. And so all it is ground beef, and you just season it up with some onions and some garlic powder and some salt and pepper. And so I removed the ground beef from the pan, leaving just a little bit of some of the grease from that hamburger meat to fry up the potatoes. I'm just going to add some salt and some pepper to these potatoes and then just fry them in that same skillet that I cooked the meat in. And then I just took that meat and I drained it and actually gave it a good rinse because this was some very fatty hamburger meat, and so there was a lot of grease in it, and I just wanted to give it a good rinse because these potatoes are already cooking up in some of that oil, and I didn't want this meal to be overly greasy. So then once the potatoes are nice and cooked, I added that meat back in, and I will just call this dish a hot mess, but it is actually pretty good, and you can add anything you want to it. And this day I just didn't add too much to it. I just was not feeling it. But I did put 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup in. My husband asked me to make this with extra meat, so that's what we did. We're using 2 pounds here, and we are in the middle of an ice storm, a winter storm, whatever you want to call it. It seems like we keep getting hit by that, and you just kind of need a little extra meat or fat in your diet just to stay warm these days. I just made some canned corn to go with it. Now you could make this with the hamburger meat and the soup on its own and put it over noodles or mashed potatoes or rice, but we did fried potatoes this night. And so with Thursday being another day of just pure craziness with the weather and with work, a lot of people were getting stuck at home because of the weather. Schools were being called off, and it was just such a hassle and whatever to get to work in the first place, and then just having a long day, not knowing what was going to happen or how long you were going to be there, that kind of thing. We just ordered subs from one of our favorite places, and my husband actually got out and picked them up and dealt with the icy roads and brought them home so that I didn't have to cook. And so these subs are pretty basic. I'm just cutting them up into pieces so that we can all share them, and they're so good from this place, but for whatever reason they didn't have anything on them, and so I just added some mayo and added some salt and vinegar chips on the side because that's what I like, and that was dinner. And finally we made it to Friday. Thank God it's Friday, right? TGIF never meant so much to me in all my life.
Take a leap of faith, run with me. Clouds go by and the sun is set high. Never gonna change. Say, would Take on me, I'm worth your while. Honestly, I'm running a bit wild. Be brave, we don't need far too much. Just stay brave beside me. Happy days, running on the open fields. Yeah. And I believe you when you say that this is never gonna change. Say, would you like to spend your days with me? Oh, be brave. We don't need far too much. Just stay brave here beside me. Oh, happy days, running on the open fields. We'll stay brave.
Once I get all of this meat sliced up, I'm just going to get it into another skillet, and I'm going to season it up with some salt, pepper, garlic, Worcestershire sauce, and then I'll just add a packet of taco seasoning.
Run with me. Clouds go by and the sun is set high. And I believe you when you say that this is never gonna change. Say, would you like to spend your day with me always? Be brave, we don't need far too much. Just stay brave beside me. Happy days, running on the open fields. Yeah. Take on me, I'm worth your while. Honestly, I'm running a bit wild. Be brave, we don't need far too much. Just stay brave beside me. Happy days, running on the open fields. Yeah. And I believe you when you say that this is never gonna change. Say, would you like to spend your days with me? Oh, be brave. We don't need far too much. Just stay brave here beside me. Oh, happy days, running on the open fields. We'll stay brave. Yeah.
I did end up adding some chives and some crushed red pepper to this meat because I was out of onions, and the one that I had was actually growing into a houseplant. So we just used some dried chives in place of the onion just for that flavor. I also didn't have any onion powder on this night either. So whatever, we just made do. And then we like a little bit of heat, so that's why we had the crushed red pepper. And so to move on and get the fresh ingredients going while our meat is just cooking in their sauces, I am chopping up some Roma tomatoes. Now, these are very pretty tomatoes, but to me, they are the least flavorful. And I love tomatoes, but I have to say Romas are not my favorite. But I did pick them because they have the less amount of seeds in them, and so I was just going for that compact tomato when I picked out these Romas. But I must say they didn't have much flavor, and I know we are like off season, but still. Anyway, I'm moving on to this lime. In about a few seconds into cutting it, I realized that I needed to reserve half of it for squeezing. And since this is a really small lime, I only needed a few slices of it anyway, because nobody in my family will touch a lime except for me. I love all things sour, lemons, limes, and sour apples, you name it. I just like the tart stuff, I guess. So anyway, there's my lime, and then next I'm moving on to this mango. I'm just gonna get it peeled and sliced up into chunks, and I'm just gonna leave all of my fruits. I guess these are all fruits, right? I'm gonna leave all of these fruits diced up on my cutting board so that when it's time to eat, everybody can just grab what they want and put a little on their plate. And so I was just in the mood to have fruit as a side dish, I guess. I'm not sure why, but sometimes you feel like fruit and sometimes you feel like vegetables, I guess. But I really do like to have a little bit of the sweet or the acidity of a fruit with Mexican food. I feel like it just cuts some of that heaviness, and so that's what we are going to do on this day. I'm just gonna finish cleaning up this mango, and mangoes are really, really slippery, so you have to be careful when you're cutting them. And I'm sure there may be an easier way to cut a mango, but this is how I've always done it, like the 2 times I've had them in the last 2 decades. But anyway, so I find this to be easier just to have a flat edge to set it down on, because like I said, it will slip away from you. I also am going to chop up some strawberries and an avocado. This avocado was not very ripe. I just could not find any ripe avocados. And then I've also had these avocados for about a week, and they still aren't very ripe. So I did have a struggle getting this avocado out of the peel. I didn't show you all of that. But anyway, it made it onto the cutting board. That's all that counts. It wasn't pretty, but whatever. Produce works in mysterious ways at our house. Either it sits around and it goes to waste, or it goes super fast. Like strawberries usually do not last in our house for very long, and so I found that if I wash them up and slice them into pieces like this, and then serve it for a meal as a side dish, then everybody gets some and they're more likely to grab it and eat it in moderation, if that makes any sense. Otherwise, the whole package of strawberries is gone in less than a day. But other things would just sit around and go to waste if I didn't also slice them up and make them available. But I guess that's probably how it is in most houses. And here is how our meat is looking. It's ready, basically. And I had a chicken burrito, so I'm not going to be showing you how the steak burritos turned out because that wasn't on my plate. Didn't even think about filming somebody else's plate, but I did put out some lettuce for everybody else to have on theirs, but I cannot eat the lettuce, so I am having mine pretty basic with just some cheese, some tomatoes, and some Taco Bell hot sauce. I already have my rice on my plate, and I have to just let y'all know that I didn't like either one of the rices that I picked up. We have used the Uncle Ben's brand before, the steam and heat and serve rice, but these were not good to me. I actually did not eat this rice. I tried to doctor it up with some lime and with some salt and pepper, but it just didn't work. I'm just going to be honest with you. I didn't care for it, the texture or the flavoring, so I didn't eat it. But the rest of it was so delicious and yummy. And I guess we live and we learn. And that's the last meal for this week's What's for Dinner. I want to thank you for coming by, and if you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!